diving deep into phishing email header analysis, understanding email headers and decoding header information. In this section, we will dive deep into phishing email header analysis. With a comprehensive understanding of email headers, you can better identify phishing attempts and protect yourself from cyber threats. We will also focus on decoding the header information in a phishing email. We will use the same phishing email header example to illustrate the analysis process. Here are the key aspects of an email header and their significance in phishing email analysis. The first thing you got to look for is you got to examine the received field. So if you go to the source here, you can see that it was received from a particular IP. This IP is the internal IP in the network of the sender. But if you see the X headers, the X originating IP is 209.85.167.226. So this is the IP that you got to investigate along with the domain. So if you check the domain that it was sent from is gogolecloud.com. So it's trying to impersonate Google Cloud, and the IP, that is the X originating IP, if you check here, it belongs to google.com, but here it's not google.com. So this is one indicator where you got to look for. The next thing you got to check for is the date field or the timestamp. The timestamp here is 7:44 a.m. July 7, 2021. Look for any inconsistencies with the date and time as well as any improbable timestamps. I know this doesn't apply here, but let's say you were supposed to receive an email from your friend. But what if you receive it at 2 a.m. in the night that contains a link which could be phishing? So you got to keep an eye on that. The next thing you have to analyze is the from field. So you can see the from here is a random subdomain of googlecloud.com. But you receive the email from Netflix. Do these two match? No. So this is one more way you can figure out that it's a phishing attempt. This could be a spoofed address that was used to send this phishing email. Next, inspect the reply to field. Here it is none. So if the reply to and the from do not match sometimes, that could indicate a phishing attempt. Also look for the return path. The return path and reply to do not match, that is more likely a phishing attempt. If you just click on the icon here, you can see that the return path domain is inconsistent. So the return path domain here is etekno.xyz, whereas the actual from domain is the subdomain of something that's impersonating Google. So this is definitely a phishing email. Next, assess the subject field. So the subject here is, you can see your account is on hold. So this is something that indicates urgency and could probably indicate a phishing attempt as well. Next, you have to review the content type field. So if you go to the source and scroll down towards the end of the header, you can see the content type here is multi-part alternative. Look for any hidden or unusual content types which could be malicious. Here we have two content types. One is plain text like this, and one is HTML, which gives you this rendered output. The plain text content type here is text/plain, and the MIME version is 1.0, which seems to be normal for now. But look for anything that's odd or suspicious in these fields. As I was telling about this MIME version, the MIME version is 1.0, which is standard. Here also you can look for any inconsistencies or deprecated MIME versions. Next, inspect the message ID here. You can see the message ID comes from mx.google.com, which is a mail server of google.com. But you expected it to come from Netflix. So this is one more place where you can look for inconsistencies in the message ID that could indicate a spoofed or phishing email. Next, you have to investigate the X originating IP. The X originating IP in the X headers here is 209.85.167.226, which is a mail server of google.com. If you see, what you have to look for here is you have to check it in threat intel. So let's say I want to investigate and I want to do IP who is lookup. So here I will get all the details from the IP for the IP from IP who is lookup directly to here. So you can also check the source and everything if it actually belongs to Google or not. One more thing is the X originating IP that is here can be spoofed. I will cover this in the next section where I'm gonna explain which is the actual originating IP and how to identify that. Next thing you can look for is the security tab here. You can check for SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, which are basically policies that are applied to emails. And you can check them in the source as well. So in the source, you can see here authentication results, DKIM is unknown, SPF is equal to none, and you get the SMTP mail from, and DMARC is unknown. These are email standards that will help you figure out whether the email was actually sent by a reputed sender or not. By understanding the significance of each email header field, you can perform a thorough analysis and better detect phishing emails. By decoding and analyzing the email header information, you can identify red flags that indicate a potential phishing attempt and take necessary precautions to protect yourself.